Welcome to S3a Me, an interdisciplinary approach to community outreach by way of video interview, music production, and performance. And today we are going to meet Kaya. See me as I rise up, see me watch me climb up, see me through it all. See me as I rise up, see me watch me climb up, see me through it all. So I'm going to start with what brings you to Hudson. So why Hudson?
So I moved to the area to basically to farm, to start a farm back in the early 2000s with friends. And then I didn't really know about Hudson. I hadn't been there when I first lived in the area. And then when I first went, I think the first time I was there was for the international dinner.
Oh yes, that's right.
It was like 2004 or something like that. And some of your family was there, some of your cousins, a whole lot of different people from a lot of different communities. And I just hadn't really understood what Hudson was or the context of this place. I was used to living in a really rural area that was more homogenous in a lot of ways. And I also had been kind of isolated being a farmer. So I guess in short, what drew me to Hudson was just this very palpable sense of community. And community that was thriving because there were multiple communities within that larger community that had a strong sense of identity, had a strong sense of place and belonging. There was connection between long-established families. There were more recent immigrant communities that were very established and had a strong presence and sense of identity in the community.
So what is it about Hudson that gives you hope? Because I've always seen you as an activist. You have been such a important figure in my life, at least, as an example to represent. How do we act? How do we do things? How do we get things going? How do we just do it? Let's stop talking about it. Let's just make it happen. And, that was something I never had really seen before, besides my mother, but for you really took things to these grand levels, WGXC, what? There's a hands-on radio now in Hudson, that's freaking insane. Kite's Nest, there's about to be a whole new way of learning for the Hudson community, and even the farm, this farm life, I didn't even know about the farm culture and farm life until Germantown Farm, you know what I mean? So there's I've learned so much about what is real in life, what is authentic, what are the most important things we need to connect with by seeing your example, by seeing the way that you act and the way that you move things, and it's such a graceful, subtle way too. It's what? She's doing all this? All that magic is coming out of that little thing. So it gives me inspiration, but what is it that gives you hope, with Hudson and doing all these active things?
Well, thank you. That's such an honor to hear from you. I think there's a way in which the answer is somewhat in your question, in that I have always felt every ounce of energy that I put into Hudson, or give of my time and energy, there's just such a response. Anytime I try to initiate something or have an idea, or I'm trying to support something that's already happening, it always feels like Hudson and the people of Hudson respond tenfold and fully show up. I've almost never had an event that wasn't really well attended, and people were really interested and engaged. And I don't think that that's me as an organizer. I think that that's there's something about this place and this space where we I don't know exactly what the recipe has been, but there's a very high level of engagement in general, across the board in Hudson. And I think sometimes I feel there's a myth that people are not engaged, or certain communities are not engaged, or difficult to engage. But I think that if you're actually doing things that are relevant, people really respond and show up. So I get a lot of hope from the feeling of just like people care, people want to feel connected with each other, people get excited about things that feel like positive additions to their community, and people like change and evolve. Like it's been really interesting being so involved in city politics over the last couple of years, and particularly this year, and seeing people sort of start out with one perspective, and over time through relationships and a lot of conversations, their perspective shifts, and ultimately in the last election we had just an amazing response that really showed that Hudson was much more unified than people described as being divided.
Right.
We had this overwhelming response to support a candidate who really represents Hudson in so many different ways, and it was like a landslide, which means there was no one group of people who supported him or the rest of the candidates that won. So to me that just felt like, look, we are connected. Like people really are seeing this, and people are willing to shift and change.
With your space and who you're working with, like how do you manage to get this big movement to like go, to like happen?
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I'm learning as I get older in particular that sometimes I have to learn how to like focus more on less things, because I over the years have had periods of time in my work in Hudson where I just really burned myself out. But I didn't exactly stop. I just like it's it starts to have an impact on your body and my mental health, and so I've had like a really powerful like health journey over the past year and a half, in like response to like, oh, I can't just go hard all the time. Like that's not only is that not okay for me and my body, but that's actually like not helpful to the movements that I'm trying to be part of and support. And something I think about a lot is like the movement work that I'm involved in or that we're involved in is going to continue for a long time, right? It might shift or different focuses or different campaigns, whatever. But like I gotta be able to keep showing up, and so there's always been this sort of like urgency, sort of pushes of like we gotta start this thing and launch this thing. I've been involved in a lot of like starting projects, and I think that that's maybe a little bit of my like strongest skill set is starting things and like building community support, building like a buzz or whatever. My real friend Corey was like, "That's your superpower." Like the getting things started.
And getting the right people cut together. Not giving up too until the right people are together. It's like so that it can last,
Yeah, and that's always been the hope, right? Is that you co-create things with people, and then they can like evolve and go on and like live on their own, and you can kind of shift to a different thing. But I've also, now that I've been running Kite's Nest for 7 years now, it's a longer time than anything else I had sort of started running. And now it's really about a different type of work. It's different than the startup phase. And it's a like longer haul, kind of like, okay, well, what does 5 years out look like? What does 10 years out look like? What does 20 years out look like? And starting to really like vision for the future beyond like, okay, how are we gonna make payroll next month? And we have this event next week, and like this sort of just running. Thinking about, well, if I'm gonna be in this work and really be able to show up for the people that I'm accountable to, then I need to like pace myself. So I'm learning that. It's still a struggle. Yeah. I mean, I think that part of it is that I have always kind of worked with and collaborated with people who like give me a lot of inspiration and like who I feel really excited about spending a lot of time with, I mean, I've had all kinds of challenging collaborations too, but even in that, like, for Kite's Nest, for example, it's like the people that I work with are some of the most incredible, inspiring, brilliant people that I know.
Yeah.
Including you and all the teachers, you know, like everybody's just like, so, it fuels me so much. I think a lot of people have the experience of going to work and you kind of like struggle through those work relationships or something, but those are like some of my most nourishing relationships.
Right.
And so work becomes a place where I'm not just putting out energy, but I'm also like, it's also feeding me. And, so I think that helps. It just helps to feel like I'm not a martyr, I'm not like sacrificing for something else. Like I'm there because there's interest, you know, like I'm getting something out of it. Right. And so then I'm able to like give more fully and not be like, I'm working all the time. And, you know, because that's the risk of a activist, and that doesn't make a good activist.
What you mean, which actually brings me to the next question, which is, what does leadership mean to you? Like, what does it mean?
Yeah. You know, I think about that one a lot, and I never have like a super solid answer because I feel like it's evolving. It's always evolving because partly because of the work we do with young people around cultivating authentic leadership. In organizing, we're trying to create non-hierarchical spaces, but non-hierarchical spaces in which leadership is supported. Because some of the mistakes that people have made and that I've made in the past is in the attempt to not be hierarchical, not being clear about where, not being able to like uplift leadership and give and support leadership, because leadership's actually really great and powerful and people really appreciate it. And so if what I've started to learn is if I can bring my leadership in a way that's really like in exchange with everyone that I'm working with and fully accountable. Like I'm just as accountable to my staff as they are to them. So if I said that I do something and I don't do that, they can hold me accountable for that. Or if I'm not showing up with my best self, like that I'm in a position for them to like give me feedback or critical feedback, and I'm going to hear that, and there's no like consequences. Right? Like they're going to be like, oh, you know, that was kind of, I didn't really like your tone that day or whatever, or like, hey, if you could do this thing differently, that would be great, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay, wow, like feedback is so important, and critique is like, it's such an honor to receive people's critical feedback, and so that helps to create a space where people feel like, even though I might be in a position of leadership in the classic sense of like executive director or whatever, that's actually what starts to address the issues of hierarchy, rather than like pretending like we all have the same exact position, when we know that people end up in different positions of power within organizations or politics or whatever. So it's about acknowledging the position of power that you might have and making yourself accountable within that.
Right. Right, yeah. Well, that makes complete sense.
Because then it can be addressed. It's like when people are like, I don't have any more power than you do. It's like, oh, but you do. And because you say we don't, then we can't really address it. Right. It's like, I'm like, oh, I totally acknowledge that, and I have to be very, very careful about how I use that. And if I ever use it in a way that's like not okay or steps out of those bounds, I'm gonna address it myself, or somebody's gonna let me know. I think about it as like, how am I always making more space, like using my position of leadership to like make more space for more leadership, right? Like I'm always, there are moments where like I need to be the one to speak up at a public meeting or something, and like I always am thinking about, you know, if the newspaper calls or if somebody comes up to me at an event, like who, you know, to talk to get a quote or something like that, I'm like, you know, there's who else can you talk to, or how can I support someone else to be centered in this like narrative, because we have another issue in our culture where we like, there's a very specific model of leadership that people kind of recognize as leader, which is like the most loud, the most outspoken, the like, one who has their talking points. The bossy one. And I'm totally like that's my personality, and so it's like sometimes really, I wish it wasn't, but it just is, and And yet when we actually make space for all different kinds of leadership, people have really powerful things to say, they have really powerful perspectives. And I noticed it we had that event last weekend with our congressman around housing. And it was really held by the young people themselves. I was like not the facilitator. They organized the event, they led it. And then because they were kind of creating the space, then there were other young people who stood up and spoke and shared their stories who I had never seen speak in public before. They hadn't been part of programs, and they just felt like moved and compelled by it. And some of those kids who hadn't even practiced or known they were going to this event before 10 minutes before it started were incredibly powerful. And like you could see them kind of connect in with that power in that moment. And so just like, I guess there's a term in emerging in activism that's like about leaderful movements of like, instead of really focusing on having strong figureheads, thinking about how are we building leadership capacity within everyone who are in the movements and all the different forms that can take. And people lead, quietly from over here, or they lead through their artwork, or they lead through the fact that they are somebody that people just really trust and connect with easily. And there's even like strategy around that in like union organizing, stuff like that. We're in a video shoot.
Sorry. So, like, what kind of music do you like to listen to? Like, what is the sound? What is the sound? Like, what is the thing that really either motivates you or kind of just brings you to a peace? Like, what is it that you like to listen to?
I feel like I have a funny, like, spectrum of music that's like very different genres. I think, like, you've been to my birthday parties, like, if I'm having a good time, like, I just want to listen to like hip hop and dance hall and like music with like really heavy beats and really like something you can feel. That, music where you're like, you hear it and you just can't not move your body. So you're like, this song. That's like probably what I listen to. At least 50% of the time, or 70% of the time, is music that makes me feel like kind of consumed by it. And particularly like the like, sometimes I like feel like I have the same taste as teenagers in music, but
that's good.
Like the kind of like epic like feel good bangers, like where it's like it just is like it's like
some hits.
The hits. Rich sound, like strings and horns.
How do you want people to see you? As like just a person and a human being. When they go into the depths of who you really are, like how do you want them to see you?
I think I want people to see me as like real and accessible. I think sometimes people see me as like unavailable or maybe even intimidating. I've gotten that like feedback sometimes. I'm like, no, like I don't want to come across like that. But I think sometimes the busyness or like
the focus. I totally relate to what you're saying.
I bet you get that too.
I get that.
Yeah. Like I want to be seen as like fun. Which I like only am part of the time. And like deeply committed, to the work of collective liberation. And like someone who's like reliable, hardworking, like shows up. I mean, I think that's the other things I want people to see me as, but I don't put that much effort into being seen that way. But like,
but it's there.
I think ultimately, like, I want to be seen as like, well, I want to be seen for the level of like commitment that I feel. And I think it's like, there's probably some ego in there of like wanting to be seen in the work. But ultimately for it to be clear that it's from a place of like commitment to the purpose of our movement,
Right.
not for like individual
Right, yeah, like
recognition.
it's bigger than you. You're just playing your part.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great questions.
Yeah.
Watch me climb up, see me through it all. See me as I rise up, see me, watch me climb up, see me through it all.
Our ability to consistently show up for young people and build relationships over a long period of time and deeply be able to support them in their path. We need a long-term home. We have a vision for a large-scale community campus that's both an outdoor space and a building that can really house our programs, our community, our kids in a way that supports, personal transformation, healing, community building, and all of the structures and components that we know contribute to our mission and to the young people's ability to thrive and make change.